915-3923-9154. The password is 209840. If you want to watch us and listen to us on YouTube on your computer or cell phone, use your browser, go to www.youtube.com. In the search bar, type Lee County IL, just IL, for short for Illinois, Zoning Board of Appeals. Don't worry about uppercase or lowercase letters. Find the session date you want, and voila. That having been said, I will note that present in the courtroom are ZBA members Burrow, Pratt, and Phelan. Zoning Officer Henkel is here. Assistant State's Attorney Stephanie Sasser is here, but she's with us on Zoom. Petitioner's here by Mr. Polk and Mr. Hall, and I've forgotten his last name. No, the gentleman next to you. I just couldn't, I blanked out because I haven't heard you testify yet.
Mr. Galone.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And of course, the court, our IT department's here by Jonathan, and the court reporter and myself are here, totaling 11 people in the courtroom. And on Zoom, nobody on Zoom. Also in the courtroom, there are no interested parties appearing. So the attendance has been cut in about in half. When we left off, the petitioner was presenting evidence, and Mr. Polk, you may call your next witness if you have one.
Call Mr. Steve Hall to witness.
Come on up, Mr. Hall. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Have a seat, please. I'll help Mr. Polk get started. Sir, state your name, please. It's got to show green.
Okay. Stephen Hall.
Mr. Hall, what's your business or occupation?
My occupation is a senior project management engineer for Ameresco, Inc.
Senior project management engineer. And with regard to the petition pending by Ameresco Lee County RNG LLC, what's your role in that, in this proceeding?
Again, I'm a senior project manager on the development side of the project.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what you want to ask, Mr. Polk, so you go right ahead.
All right, Mr. Hall. What would you describe Ameresco does as a business?
Ameresco is what we would term a clean tech integrator and renewable energy asset developer, owner, and operator. Clean tech integrator would be our involvement with like municipalities, universities, townships. For example, City of Chicago, we did excuse me, an LED lighting project for them. We also do our own projects where we do wind projects, solar, battery storage, and renewable energy projects as well.
What is your description of the project in this petition?
So in this particular project, we are building a renewable natural gas facility adjacent to the Lee County landfill owned by Republic Services. The objective of the facility is to take landfill gas, clean it up to a 92% or greater methane, and inject it into the pipeline as a renewable resource.
How many biogas facilities does Ameresco currently have in operation?
Currently, we have over 30 projects. We've been involved in biogas projects for over 20 years now. Essentially, you have three types of biogas projects, or when you look at a landfill, for example, a landfill by nature of operation has organic material that goes into the landfill. It breaks down, generates methane, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, siloxanes. If left untouched, that will percolate up through the landfill soil and becomes a greenhouse gas issue. Landfills generally resolve the issue in one of three methods. They would typically flare it to relieve the pressure and take care of the gas. A second methodology is to take the gas, run it through combustion engines and generate electricity. And finally, the latest technology that is being employed is the renewable natural gas cleanup, where we essentially take the gas, clean it up so that we get a 92% or greater methane content by removing the CO2, nitrogen, oxygen, moisture, and siloxanes, and then inject it into the pipelines. This is viewed by the federal government as a renewable resource. As a company, we participate in a program where we get renewable energy credits called RINs for generating this electricity, for producing this gas and injecting it into the pipelines. The primary benefits are reduction in greenhouse gas. And a reduction in fossil fuel use. These fuels can be used as compressed natural gas for transportation process, generating electricity, or used in households as a natural gas. It's the equivalent of natural gas at that pure methane state.
I have no further questions.
Members of the ZBA? Mr. Burrow, any questions?
Mr. Hall, yes. Since this is a new subject to our county, it's interesting. You mentioned RINs, and this is similar to what the fuel gasoline companies use and stuff. What do you do with your RINs then? Do they sell them in the open market to generate income?
Yes, so we basically get paid to put the gas into the pipeline or by the therms, and then we get additional credits. Companies are required in certain places to have a certain amount of RINs per year as part of a renewable energy program. So there's an open market. We usually deal with third-party marketers to market those RINs and part of our profit.
This is a privately owned business that's doing this whole procedure with the landfill. Is that true?
That's correct. Ameresco is building the plant. We'll own it. We don't, when we do these projects, we own them, operate them, and retain them. They're not built like some companies will build and design and then flip to another owner or sell them. We don't. We try to keep them for the life of the contract, 20 years plus.
You mentioned the landfills, and you've dealt with other landfills.
We have.
Is the production of methane or natural gas does that vary from one landfill to the other, or are they pretty much the same?
No, it varies. A lot of it is determined by what is being input into the landfill. There's obviously hundreds of landfills across the country. Part of the evaluation process is to do an evaluation of the gas, and you determine your treatment process, and that kind of determines the price or cost of the facility that you're building and whether it's economically feasible.
Now, as some fuels get credits for being cleaner. Does this get extra credit going into the pipeline or from California or some states or anything?
In this particular case, the landfill gas does not qualify for low carbon standard credits. The RINs themselves are equivalent to a renewable energy credit, though, as a sale on the market.
I think that's all I've got for now.
Mr. Pratt?
So talk to me about the length of this project. How long? You said 20 years?
It's estimated to have a 20-year lifespan. We have agreements in place for 5-year incremental renewals. And there is no reason to think that as long as the facility is properly maintained, that we can't exceed the 20-year limit. Some of it goes to the landfill in its lifespan. Generally, these plants work better with active landfills, although we have done some on inactive landfills that have been closed. So this is, we base it on a 20-year contract to start, but with 5-year potential renewals after that 20 years.
How long of terms are your easements with the landowners?
I don't believe there's any term limit on the easements themselves.
So what happens to the pipeline if you guys decide not to renew it?
We have a decommissioning plan that we have put together. Typically, a decommissioning plan can include up to capping both ends with concrete, filling the pipe with water. I know some people have asked, will we remove the pipe? That's rather impractical and invasive to the landowners to do that. Again, being a 4-inch pipe, there's very little impact once it's purged, cleaned, and capped.
Nobody will want to purchase that pipeline from you?
That is a possibility that could happen, but that's not what we have to plan for because that's an unknown.
So do you have to pay Republic for the gas that's coming out of there?
Yes, we're partners with Republic, so we have gas rights established in a contract with them. And as a result, that's how this becomes worthwhile for them to do the partnership, is they get a fee for selling us the gas. And then sometimes, depending on the contracts, it could be shared revenues and that sort of thing.
No further questions?
Mr. Phelan?
Mr. Hall, are there any government subsidies going towards this project?
Again, the RINs would qualify as that subsidy.
Is there any sunset provisions on those subsidies coming from the government? Like you have, they go away at a certain time?
No, there's no limitation on them now. In fact, we've actually seen growth in the area and encouragement to keep the program going and possibly increase it, just because, again, methane being one of the worst greenhouse gases there is, it's a strong drive to find solutions for that and to be able to safely and environmentally sound methods of capturing and using.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, great. Ms. Henkel?
No questions.
How about Ms. Sasser, you got any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
No, thank you. All right, you may step down. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a
Donald?
question first. We have evidence from last night.
I made myself a little note. I was going to ask you if you got copies of that petitioner's
We
number
do.
one.
When's the appropriate time to
Just hand them to me. You've already testified about them. Just, why don't you hand them to Alice and we'll get them distributed.
Okay. Next witness, I call Mr. Andy Galone.
All right, Mr. Cologne, and I'll solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Have a seat. And again, I'll just help us get started, Mr. Polk. State your name.
My name is Andrew Gallone, spelled Gullone.
Great, thank you. And what's your business or occupation?
I am a civil engineer and a senior project manager. I am employed at Civil and Environmental Consultants in Naperville.
Civil Environmental Consultants, right? CEC?
Yes, CEC for short.
All right, and has CEC, Civil Environmental Consultants, have a relationship with Amoresco Lee County RNG LLC?
Yes, we are under contract with Amoresco to provide the pipeline design and permitting support for this project.
So in common parlance, you're an independent contractor for them for consulting services, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You may inquire further, Mr. Polk.
All right, Mr. Gallone. Was there a permit application form submitted to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources?
Yes, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources uses an online tool called EcoCat. And on this tool, we fill out the project location and it will provide us with results for the ecological aspects of the projects, which are rare, threatened, and endangered species. In this project, we received a report that it was not likely to adversely affect the existing ecological habitat.
Was a wetland or evaluation or survey completed?
Yes, we completed a stream and wetland delineation for the limit of disturbance of the project. And that was included with the application in Appendix N. We delineated 2 streams and 4 wetlands that are within the limit of disturbance.
Are those streams, how will those be impacted by the project?
We designed the pipeline with a boring crossing underneath the streams and wetlands. So we are not trenching through the streams and wetlands, and there will be no impacts.
Was there an application to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers?
We submitted a no permit required letter to the Rock Island, the Rock Island District of the Corps, notifying them of the project, but also notifying them that there would be no impacts to the streams or wetlands based on the boring design.
What were the results of the no permit request?
They accepted our application and noted that there would be no impacts.
Was there a permit application form submitted with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service?
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service uses another online tool called IPAC. Again, we upload the project information similar to the EcoCat, and it provides us with rare, threatened, and endangered species results. In this case, we received a not likely to adversely affect rare, threatened, and endangered species, but we are required to do winter tree clearing, which has to be completed between November 16th and March 30th.
Was there an application submitted for the to the Illinois Historic Preservation Office, and what were the results?
Yes, we had, we submitted our initial consultation letter, and their response was they wanted us to complete a survey for some high potential areas and some above ground structures. We completed that, submitted a report to SHPO office, and yesterday we received a letter confirming that there were no impacts to archaeological sites within the limit of disturbance.
Were copies of all negotiated landowner easements included with the application?
Yes, the landowner agreements were included in Appendix F of the application.
Was there a detailed decommissioning plan that includes flushing the pipeline, cleaning the pipeline, disconnecting or retiring the pipeline, removing the pipeline from public right-of-way if required?
Yes, we submitted the decommissioning plan as Appendix G of the application. In it, we discussed, closing the pipe, cleaning the pipe, and then per the ordinance, it was required to remove the pipe, which we did note, except in the areas underneath the roads. If the pipe was removed under the road, since we're not trenching it, we're boring it, it would actually leave a void, which could have potential to damage the road in the future. So in those road crossing situations, we propose to empty the pipe, fill it with grout, and that would leave a more stable situation in the future.
Was an existing conditions site plan included with the application?
Yes, we prepared an existing condition site plan that was submitted in Appendix J of the application. The survey was completed by Weaver Consultants, and they provided us their information to prepare the plans.
And those plans showed all property lines.
Yes,
Did it show the boundary between Amboy and Lee County jurisdiction?
yes, it showed the approximate boundary between City of Amboy and Lee County jurisdiction.
Was there an appendix that showed the pipeline impact radius?
Yes, the pipeline impact radius was included in Appendix Q in the design basis document.
And is the pipeline impact radius greater than or less than 150 feet?
The pipeline impact radius is approximately 98.1 feet, which is less than 150 feet.
Is the pipeline designed to provide at least 150 feet setback from any residential structure?
Yes,
Do the existing plans show existing public and private roads and the widths of the roads and their easements or rights of way?
yes,
Do the existing plans show a contour map?
yes,
Do the existing plans show waterways, streams, and rivers?
yes,
Was a copy of the current FEMA firm map included with the application?
yes, it was included in Appendix J as well.
Did the existing plans include mapped soils? Existing mapped soils?
Yes,
Did the existing plans show surface water drainage patterns?
yes, the surface water drainage patterns were based on the contour information.
Did the existing plans show existing utilities and pipelines?
Yes, the existing plans showed the utilities and pipelines that were located by Weaver Consultants.
Do the proposed plans show the elevations of the proposed pipeline?
Yes, in Appendix K are the alignment sheets. They have a plan view at the top of the page and then a profile view towards the bottom of the page, which shows the approximate pipeline elevations.
Do the proposed plans show standard manufacturer specifications and recommendations for pipe materials that should be used for this project?
Yes, we provided a bill of materials which has the specifications.
No further questions.
All right. Mr. Burrow, any questions?
The one question that discussed was about leaving the pipelines under the road if they decommission then. So would you separate that portion of the pipeline from the rest of the pipeline, that the portion that's under the road, and seal it, or what exactly were you doing then?
Yes, we would remove the pipeline up into the right of way of the road. And then the pipeline in the right of way would be emptied and then filled full of grout for support.
Okay. Have you done any projects similar to this type of fill with roadways before?
So we've never, all the pipelines I've designed and constructed are still in operation. So we've never had the chance
Had to do
to
that.
fill.
You mentioned the mapping of the wetlands and the streams. Is there any things that you have to do different with the wetlands when, as far as putting the pipeline through that? Is there any other rules for dealing with the wetlands?
So there are no setbacks to wetlands. If we were to open cut and trench through them, we would need a permit for that. But the applicant has decided to bore underneath the wetlands to avoid impacts.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Brett?
So you stated that the landowner easement agreements are in the petition.
Yes.
I don't know, is this the final version? They're not in mine. There is no section F.
Correct. They only provided 2 copies of the application that were complete with all of those. Those are available in my office. They are also, I believe, available. I have to check online.
So then you're employed by CEC, right?
Correct.
Yeah. There's a letter from Jeff Cruchin, Chief Archaeologist, in this petition. And there's one sentence, I don't know, are you familiar with that, or do you have it in front of you or anything?
I can look at it.
But it states approximately 5.6 hectares, 13.0 acres of the project area is within a high probability area according to the Illinois GIS. I can't figure out what high probability area of what. That's in section E. It's after all the maps. There's no page number on it or anything. It's right before his conclusion or his closing.
So there's a letter in Appendix E. I don't know what page number, but it's dated March 12th,
Right.
2024. On page 2 of that letter, that was from CEC to Mr. Crutchin. Yeah, we state that there's approximately 13 acres within the high probability area according to the Illinois GIS. And then there's the report that after we did the field work, there's a report dated May 17th, 2024. And in there, it describes the areas that we surveyed.
My question is, what is there a high probability of in that area?
A high probability of artifacts being found, arrowheads, that kind of stuff.
But there's no consequences to that.
There could have been if we would have found potential artifacts, but we did not find it. And we did not find any artifacts.
If you do, as you do construction, what happens?
Then we have to shut down the project and do more investigation to find out what that is and possibly more permitting impacts.
So who determines what is a artifact? I mean, just your employees?
We have qualified registered archaeologists on staff.
On site?
They're not on site, they're on staff.
I see. Okay. No further questions.
Mr. Phelan,
I have no questions.
about you, Ms. Henkel?
No questions.
How about you, Ms. Sesser? No response.
I have no questions. Sorry, it took a minute for my window to pull up. I have no questions.
Thanks. I'm going to hand you a single page. It's got a pretty green border at the top, and I've written PET 2 on it. Is that the response to which you referred from SHPO?
Yes.
Thank you. And I said one question, one more. This tree clearing thing is for what purpose? For what resource, animal, but botanical, does IDNR suggest the tree cutting, tree clearing?
It's for the tricolored bat.
And I think more for everybody's curiosity than anything else, why cut down trees for a bat?
So during the summertime, the bats are out of their, they're not hibernating and they live in the trees. And so if we cut them down, we have potential to damage their habitat. During the wintertime, they go to their caves, and that allows us to cut trees during the wintertime.
So the trees aren't beneficial to them?
They are. We can do a habitat assessment to see if there are any what's called a roost tree where the bats would live. But the applicant, due to the timing of the project, there are 2 locations where there's trees, one to the south and then one near the intersection of Corregidor Road and North Baton Road that have trees, and the applicant has decided to bore those locations to avoid cutting trees.
Cottonwood trees, probably?
I'm not a tree expert.
So it was recommended you do tree clearing, but you don't have to because you're not going through that wooded section. Is that what I hear?
It is recommended to do tree clearing, but we have decided to bore under the trees to avoid cutting any trees.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't have any other questions. Thanks. Step down. Mr. Polk, this is just a question. You already testified about yesterday about petitioners number 1, the community meeting notice. I've been handed what I've marked as petitioners number 1, and I want to make sure we're on the same page. So petitioners number 1 now consists of a meeting notice on top, 2 pages of a distribution list, an affirmance from, or actually it's called an order confirmation from Shaw Media with an attached published notice in a Shaw Media newspaper. And I got to agree with you. I don't see where it says which newspaper. And then a certificate of publisher from the Amboy News with the same kind of copy of a published notice. Is that then comprise your exhibit number one?
Yes.
Okay. I admit those two exhibits, and I also admit Ms. Henkel's exhibits 1 through 10. I also note for the record that exhibit number 8, ZO number 8, is a hearing application from the plaintiff that was filed on May 23rd. And as opposed to what apparently Mr. Pratt got, the application that I have, big 3-ring binder, in Appendix F has a number of easement agreements with landowners. I've not gone through and matched them up, but I have a handful, so that probably more than an inch high. All right. Ms. Henkel, do you want to call any witnesses other than your own testimony from the other day?
I have none, thank you.
Okay. There are no interested parties present, so they sort of forfeit that opportunity. I'll ask you, Jonathan, is there anybody else on Zoom besides Ms. Sasser at this point? All right. Well, the evidence is then closed. We can entertain any closing arguments or public comments that you want to give, Mr. Polk or Mr. Hall, or just one of you, though.
Sure. So Ameresco understands safety and how important it is to this community. Ameresco wishes to become a welcome member of the community by demonstrating our commitment to safety. Some of the highlights we've discussed through this hearing are that the minimum depth of cover for transmission pipelines, according to 49 CFR Part 192, the minimum standard depth of cover for Class 1 location pipelines is 2.5 feet deep. However, Ameresco is designing the pipeline to exceed this by installing the pipeline with between 6 to 8 feet depth of cover, depending on where it's located. The max operating pressure of the pipeline will be 800 PSI G. Ameresco is designing the pipeline to safely handle up to 3,943 PSI G, even though the pressure will never exceed 800. Some of the benefits to the community are that this project will reduce emissions of greenhouse gas. It will not only reduce emissions, but it would convert that gas to usable green energy. This also offsets consumption of fossil fuels. The farmers will be able to maintain enjoyment and use of their land, even over the pipeline easement. And Ameresco wishes to comply with the ordinance. Ameresco believes we have demonstrated that throughout this hearing. And that's all.
Thank you. I have one quick question. You're not under oath, and maybe I wrote something down. Didn't you say yesterday that the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, required 4 feet to, now you just said 2.5?
It's 2.5 feet deep. There are some exceptions. Typically under agricultural land, it's an increased depth of cover.
To 4?
That's the recommendation.
Okay. Okay, thanks. All right. Well, this was quick. Now, the Ameresco may not realize this, but at the next stage of this proceeding is the ZBA's findings of fact and recommendation. In order to do that, potential possible motions need to be prepared. That can't happen until we've heard all the evidence. That process takes a few days. So I will continue this. Are you still available on Monday night, the 17th? Mr. Burrow?
Yes.
Mr. Pratt?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan? Yes. Alice?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay. So I will continue this, this hearing until Monday night, June 17th, at still 7 o'clock. And I always forget whether it's 6 or 7. There's some magic date it changes, but 7 o'clock here, third floor courtroom, Old Lee County Courthouse. Hey, thanks, everybody. And gentlemen, you're welcome to come to that, but the participation part is over. You can, obviously, it's a public hearing, you can come and watch and listen, but your job as far as this is done. You're welcome if you want. You can also, watch on Zoom or.
Yeah, you could zoom it
YouTube.
from Maine or Louisiana.
All right.